Hi, this is Trinesha Cottrell, and today I wanted to talk about desperation. I know, you're probably like, what in the world? That's a weird thing for her to just make a video about desperation. So, initially, this was going to be called desperation because I was thinking of relationships. I was thinking of how sometimes when we get in certain situations of our life, we feel like there's no other way out. We feel like there's no other solution. We feel like something is at lack, which makes us feel desperate because we need something or we want something so badly. Some things that we desperately want, we don't even need that thing that badly. It's just what we're telling ourselves. We're telling ourselves that, oh, we're never going to be able to afford this. We tell ourselves we'll never be able to get that guy or this job or this woman if you're a guy or whatever it is, or I'll never have my body looking like that. If you eat healthy and you exercise, you don't know what the best version of your body looks like. You really don't until you start doing it. And so when I was in church today, our message was called Finding Salvation Out of Desperation. And the pastor went and he talked about how sometimes it can be financial desperation where someone is at they are at a moment where they might lose their house or they can't pay a certain bill or something like that, so they'll be desperate financially and it'll just feel like they're going to miss something. They don't have what they need. Then he said it's not just finances, sometimes it's health as well. Sometimes it can be when it comes to someone getting older in age or someone gets sick or ends up with a virus or something else, and that can make you desperate in health. And as he's talking about all these different things, I think about how people say some people are desperate for a relationship. And it's so funny because as I thought about being desperate in a relationship, other people being desperate, or, even as time moves on in my own life, I don't get where I feel desperate in a relationship, but I do feel like it's on my mind more sometimes. Like sometimes I'll be doing stuff and I'm not even thinking about it. And then sometimes it'll be like, I don't know. I don't know if it's like a woman thing, if it's an age thing. I don't know what the deal is, but it's like I'll be thinking about something or I'll be doing something totally random and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like I just get this drop in my mind like, oh my goodness. You know, I when I go this place like, every person isn't the person. And it just feels like the number is slowly dwindling down and I'm like, then I got to remind myself it's another million people out there. Like this is like one of a million. This is two of a million. This is of 1.5 million. This is two of 1.5 million, three of 1.5 million, four, or well, however many it is. And then I remember I like being single. And it's like I always forget. I get like this weird forgetfulness. And I forget who I am. I forget whose I am. And then I forget that I actually like being single. And I'm like, oh yeah. Because then, like, in my mind, like, I don't know if all women do this or if it's just me, but in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, we partnered together on this. And it would be nice to go to this one thing with this person. Okay, after the thing, then what? You gonna like send the person on their way? Like, like be realistic. You got to really think about why you truly want to be in a relationship. Don't just want somebody to go to one event with you. You could hire somebody for that. I don't know if you could do that. Can you hire people for that? I don't know. But I wouldn't want to hire anybody anyways. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that's like the only solution is to like be with someone for somebody to go to an event. It could be a friend, but I've learned since I've been single that if you're friends with somebody of the opposite sex that is interested in the opposite sex, when you tell them to go places or you're hanging out or something, some people think that's a date. Some people think that that you're interested in them because you are cool with them. Even when you say you just want to be friends with the person, they still think that you want them. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. Like, I probably just need to be friends with all women or something. I don't know. But it's just one of those things. And it's crazy because I think that if we like take a second and we think of why we really truly want whatever it is in our life, then it'll make us, my hair is just, the story of the hair. But if we really think about why we want these things or why we feel like we desperately need these things, then it might help us to evaluate our lives and ourselves to see what it is that we truly want for ourselves, to see what it is that we truly aspire to have, what we really want to strive for in life. Like if financially you're desperate, maybe it comes to you working another job. Maybe it comes to you looking for another job. Maybe it's one of those things where you start to really reevaluate your life and figure out if you need to budget better, if you need to be a better steward of your finances. Maybe it comes to you, instead of like doing this, maybe you do that. And I know some people are going to say, well, it's really hard for me because I have kids or whatever it is. And most jobs is like they want you to be at their beck and call. They don't really care about what your kids are doing. They only want you to just be there when they want you to be there at that time, at that date, whatever it is. And so I know it can be really difficult because some people will be like, oh my goodness, I really have to make this money because I'm a single parent or whatever else it is. And it gets really difficult to be able to do things like that. And I understand where you're coming from because it's not always easy, especially if you don't have a support system or especially if you don't have a lot of people in your life that can help you out. I just so happen to be blessed with having some people in my life that are able to help me. But I cannot imagine having to do it alone with no support system. I couldn't even imagine being able to being in that type of situation. So I really truly do understand because it's not easy even for me with the support sometimes. Sometimes I have to miss out on things because that's just how it is, especially if you're a single parent. It's not like one of you is there. And sometimes you know, it's one of those things where it's on you. You really have to be the person that bears the brunt of whatever it is. And one of the coaches or the people that I listen to that talk about really inspirational things and like just life in general said something that always sticks with me from that moment forward. And they said that when you have a child, it's 100% your responsibility. And I feel like that's 100% accurate. This is just my opinion. And I feel that way because when you choose to have a child, when you do whatever it takes to make a child or whatever it is, there's every chance, like you have a chance of conception every time. So when you do have a child, you don't know if the other person is going to, and I mean, really, if you're married, you're hoping that your spouse steps up and does the right thing. But if you're not married, and I'm not trying to like speak that into anybody's life or anything like that, but if you're not, then it really falls on you. You're really, because you don't have any way to, I mean, of course you can get other things in place and stuff like that, but when you decide that this is something that you're going to do, you have to be willing to say, okay, this is 100% my responsibility. I'm not saying that for like guys to have an easy out and feel like they don't have to take any responsibility. I'm just saying that I really feel like that's how we really have to program our minds to think about it, because you don't know what's going to happen with the other person. You don't know if they're going to be here or not. You don't know if it's their time to go. And next thing you know, you're raising this child on your own. Like, you really have to think of this child being 100% your responsibility, because you can't, there's no way that you could see how your life is going to pan out. And if you're even going to have another person there helping you or not. And so when you think about that, before you make the decision to do whatever it is that you're doing, think about the repercussions of your actions. Think about what it is that you need to do. And that's not for people who fall on hard times, that are in rough situations, that really are trying and it just seems like everything's against them. I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about the person who just intentionally decides that this is something they want to do because they think the person is going to be there, or because they think that they can make the person stay around, or because they think whatever it is. When you're coming at it from a manipulative perspective, or you're coming at it from a place of, oh, this is how I could keep this person in my life or whatever. I hear so many crazy stories and I'm like, what in the world? Like, that kid is not going to change that person's core values or who that person is at their core. They're going to always be that type of person, no matter if there's a kid or not. I'm not saying that children aren't a blessing and that sometimes, it can make some people change some of their ways, but a person usually doesn't change just for a child. Usually they change for themselves, they change for God. And so I think it's, and maybe like for most women, they want the best for their child. So I think that's why, like, even when we find out, it's so weird because we could find out that we're about to have a child and we're just like, oh, we need to do all of these. Like, immediately we start to change the way we eat because we can't eat certain things. We start to not do certain things because it's harmful to the baby. We start to do all of these things in preparation for a child. When we get the child, it's like that responsibility kicks in for most people, most women. And it's like, oh my gosh, I need to do all of these things. For guys, most of the time, it doesn't kick in until, like, I'm not talking about like 401k or setting up college fund or anything like that, but most of the time, like when it comes to like actually seeing and knowing that, oh my gosh, I got to be responsible, it's like once the child is there, it's like, oh wow, like this child is real. But when you're a woman and you feel the child growing in you, or like you start to get your emotions start to get into it, or you start to feel like emotionally involved, it's a whole nother thing. It's not just like, oh, once a child's here, oh, all of a sudden I'm attached to this child. Sometimes that connection forms from the moment of conception. It's like you get this attachment. When I first had my daughter, when the first time I left to go somewhere and she wasn't with me, like she had been with me like 9, 10, 10, 11 months. So on the 11th month, when I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else, I felt like this weird separation anxiety, like this weird, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like something is like, it just feels like it's hard to like let go and just go do whatever it is that you need to do. But I don't see like a lot of guys struggle with that. But I think it's just because for the most part they're like growing in us, and because we are the ones who are like doing most of the feedings if you're breastfeeding or whatever else. So it's kind of different, in a way. And it's not to say that guys don't go through, different things as well, but it's not the same. It's a different type of the same thing, but it's not the same thing. And so it's just one of those things. I think that we really do have to be intentional with our lives. And you might be in a situation right now where you don't have the choice one way or another. But just know that God is God. Do everything to the best of your ability. Be prepared. Get intentional with your life and figure out what it is that you can do. Don't just give up and feel like, oh my gosh, it just seems like everything's against me, because God can turn any situation around just like that. And when it comes to health, you know, there is this thing of having hope, and you also have to make sure that you're not being selfish. Like if someone's getting older and they've lived 90 years and you're like, I just want them to be here until they're 120, and you know that they're going to be like living on machines for the next 20 years, like that's not life. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying it to step on anybody's toes or make anybody feel a certain type of way. I'm just saying that we really have to think of, are we doing this or we want this for a selfish reason? Like, is this what's best for the person or what's best for us? You know? And then we really have to think about when there's a virus or something that comes on your body, just don't accept it. And I'm not saying that like all of a sudden now you don't have it, but there could be a different test and the next thing you know it's gone. The next thing you know, maybe you have it but you beat it. So and I'm not saying, when it comes to God, I think it's good to be desperate, because this is what I wrote on my post today. I do like this weekly post every time I have church. So today is Sunday, but when the video comes out, it'll be on a random day of the week. So so when I did my post, this is what I put. I said, today at church we talked about finding salvation out of desperation. And it made me think about how God brought me through a lot, most of my own cognizance. It's funny how when you are at your weakest point in life, it allows God to penetrate your soul. And when you call on Him, He hears you and rectifies your whole life. It doesn't matter who you are or what you've done, just call on Him. And then I put this scripture on there that says, in the same way the Spirit helps us in our weakness, we do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. and that's Romans 8:26. And I think it's always good to be desperate for God, because when we call on him, he comes. He's there with us anyways. But when he knows that one of his children are in need, when he knows that we really need him, he's there. You don't have to worry about the time of day it is. You don't have to worry about calling him too often. The only thing you have to worry about is the fact that you don't have to worry about nothing. All you have to do is just seek him, and he will provide everything else to you in your life. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we go through life and we just think, oh my gosh, I got to go through this all by myself. How many times have you heard people say that? Oh, I have to do this all alone. It's just me. There's no one else to help me. God is helping you, but you just forgot to call on him. You got so swept up in life and the changes and all the things that are happening around you that you forgot that God is in control of all of that. So it's time for you to really think about what it is that you want. I'm gonna have to go because people are like, all right, are you coming or nah? I don't know why I started saying or nah. Like, I listened to one song that was different than gospel music last week, and now all of a sudden all I'm saying is nah. I don't know. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I had to probably only listen to gospel music, because I started slipping. Like, I'm not slipping like in major areas. It's just like I'm just like, oh, like, and then no, I'm not saying any hood colloquialisms or anything like that. I just like I could feel like a little bit of verbiage slip a little, and I'm like, okay, let me reel it back in. So, in conclusion, because I do have to go, because I don't want them to start worrying and being like, oh my gosh, where is she? Like, I don't have to be at a place at a certain time. But I did say, oh yeah, once I get home and I do a couple things, then I'm gonna leave and head over there. So they're probably like, where is she? So I'm gonna close this up, because I don't wanna be that person that's just making people wait, especially since now, they're like, okay, I guess other people are showing up and they wanna start doing some of the stuff. So I'm gonna head over there now. But I did want to pop on and do this video. I was gonna wait till I got back home, but I said I felt it in my spirit, and I really didn't plan for this video to be super long. I just wanted to make sure that I said something that could help somebody else. And so in conclusion, when it comes to being desperate, is it's important for us to remember that we're at lack of nothing, that God is going to provide all of our needs, that when it comes to finances, when it comes to health, whatever it is, reevaluate your life and be intentional. Be intentional about the type of jobs that you're working in. Now that there's so many different ways to make money, maybe look up another solution. Maybe there's a way for you to work from home. And I'm not saying this because a lot of people do this, but maybe it's doing something that is an e-commerce store. Maybe it's doing, I don't know, videos on YouTube. Maybe it is creating something like a life coach thing, or you do some kind of coaching, or some kind of thing that you do at home, or you do a service where you do like an e-card or something, and that's when your kids are in school so you can make extra money for your bills. Like, think of things like that and different solutions. Like, don't just always think, oh, I don't have anything I need, because you speaking that on your life and just expecting not to get anything isn't opening any doors for you. The more that you start to be intentional about your life and be a good steward of your finances, even if you don't have a lot of finances, God will start providing all of your needs. And I'm not saying that's for you to just be lazy and have your hand out. I'm saying that it's for you to be intentional and putting forth an effort, because faith without works is dead. So we have to make sure that we intentionally seek God, we're intentional in our lives, and we continue to strive to be better and do better in our lives. And when it comes to relationships or jobs or whatever else it is, don't feel like you're at lack of anything. Don't get desperate for a relationship or desperate for a job just because it pays good money. Because a job that pays good money that leaves you miserable is desolate. That's not something that will ever fill you up. That's something that's only going to pull from you until it breaks you all the way down. Some things, money's not worth everything. It's good to have money to pay bills, but money shouldn't control you. The only thing you should be worshiping is God, because the love of money is the root of all evil. You could have money. Nothing's wrong with getting money, but just don't worship it. Because if you're allowing money to control your life, then you are letting money run you. You're not making it, you know? So just continue to stay focused, continue to be intentional. Don't get desperate for anything in life. The only thing you should be desperate for is God. Because when you seek Him, when you call on Him, He will be there. He will show up every single time. He will make a way out of no way. He will make the impossible possible because He's God. So knowing that, trust in Him and allow Him to just take control of your life. Allow Him to lead you so that you don't have to ever feel desperate for anything but Him.